The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom has a lot of different echoes you get to choose from, so of course, what are my favorite echoes in this game? In total, I picked through 7 different echoes, those echoes consisting of the Water Block, Sword Moblin 3, the Lino, the Dark Nut 3, Cloud, Flying Tile, and Crawlchilla. Those were kinda hard to remember, but at least I was able to list them all down. So with all that being said, let's get into my favorite echoes of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Starting up with the Water Block, you might look at this and be like, well, it's just a block of water, how much can it do? Well, this block of water is able to do a decent amount. What I mean by that is that you're able to stack the water together to make more water. I actually find this echo to be pretty useful, and it isn't the only unuseful echo in Echoes of Wisdom. If there was a platform that I wasn't able to reach, well, I could just pull out the water blocks if I needed to. And that's kind of the main use you're gonna get out of this echo. It isn't a lot, but I do find it very useful when it needs to be useful. I'd arguably say it's more useful than using the beds in this game. I'm saying this because I think the water blocks have a bit more freedom to moving around with them, so that's one advantage I'd say this has. It's a very simple echo, but definitely useful when it needs to be useful, and if you are playing through this game, I would recommend you use this the most. Next up on the list of my favorite echoes, we got the Sword Moblin 3. I kinda just tossed this one on here, but it is one of the game's more overpowered monster echoes, so I had to throw it on here. Its main gist is that it's able to attack enemies very powerfully, and it's also blue, which I gotta say, I really like the design of this echo, but overall, that's really it. It has a sword and it will use it, and also a shield. If you don't have any other overpowered monster echoes like this one, it will be useful for its time, and I definitely recommend it for boss fights, but there are better ones out there. Speaking of the Lino, I do wish I got access to it earlier, but at least I do have it now. It is absurdly strong, which if you played Breath of the Wild, of course it is. This thing is able to take an absurd amount of damage and not really die from it, but I think what I love about it the most is that it's able to one-shot enemies. I know the other one could do that, but this one's even more insane for that. It's also a very fast-moving echo, so you better be aware of that when you're trying to capture it. And of course, it's very useful against bosses in this game. I really like this one. Now we have the Dark Nut 3. It isn't as useful as the Lino, but it is definitely useful. It will swing at enemies with its axe, and when it does, it won't really stop until it feels like it. I'd say it comes in useful when you're fighting a horde of enemies, and of course it works when you're fighting bosses. I don't really know what else to say about it, it's just a nice overpowered echo to have. So, Cloud. Unlike with something like the water blocks or the beds, you can summon as many clouds as you want. They do fade away and you do have to move quickly before they do fade away. If you do practice with this echo, it will be useful in certain scenarios. And it is probably my favorite echo in the game to constantly keep stacking with. Next up on the list, we got the Floating Tile. You can use this thing by pointing it in various different directions, but it will eventually break off when you stand on it. Or if you're not standing on it, it will still break off anyways. It is that one echo that probably has the most disadvantages against it, but hey, you can use it in combat. And if there is an area you can't reach, you can always pull this out. There are much better platforms to use, but this one comes in handy when it needs to be. We have saved the best for last, Crawlchilla. This echo is a spider, and if you know what a spider can do, it can climb up walls. And that's what it's able to do, and I love it for that. If there is some area that you're trying to reach, just pull out the spider, man. It might be game breaking, but who cares? It doesn't really have much combat experience, but I got what I wanted out of it. So those are all my favorite echoes in The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. What are your favorite echoes? Let me know and I'll see you guys next time, and bye.